This week we are reading a story called Shiloh. Mary Preston is faced with the dilemma when a young beagle turns up at his home near friendly West Virginia. Marty feels sure the dog is being abused by his owner, but Marty's parents say he must take him back. It hurts Marty to return the runaway dog to his cruel master. That's when Marty secretly decides he'll do anything to save the dog he named Shiloh. Sure seems strange having Shiloh in the house that night after trying so hard to keep him secret. Strange, too, the way Ma takes to him. Seems like she can't hardly pass his box next to the stove without reaching down to pet him, making low sympathy noises in her throat, way she does when Daryl, Lynn, or Becky or me gets sick. Dad don't say much. He come home to find Shiloh there. He just stands off to one side, listening to what Doc Murphy said about him. He don't get close enough for Shiloh to take a lick. But when supper's over and I go off to the bathroom to brush my teeth, I peek back through the doorway, and Dad's over by Shiloh's box, letting him lick his plate clean. Dad crouches there a minute or two, scratching all down Shiloh's back and up again. What I'm figuring, see, is by the time Shiloh's better, everybody will love him so much they just can't let him go, even Dad. I'm hoping Dad will go over to see Judge Travers, make him an offer for Shiloh, and then he'll be ours. The trouble with this kind of thinking, though, is we don't have the money. I'll probably be through junior high school almost before I earn enough to pay Doc Murphy's bill, to buy Shiloh from Judd, even if Judd's willing to sell. I'd have to collect aluminum cans all through high school, too. Can't make very much with cans. I try to think about what other kind of work I can do that would pay me more. But except for delivering the county paper on Friday afternoons, nothing else comes to mind. And somebody's got that job already. It's sort of like Shiloh's there and he's not. In the next couple of days, everybody's petting him every chance they get. Becky feeds him the crust off her toast, breaks off little bits, and shrieks every time she feels Shiloh's mouth slurp them out of her fingers. Ma's putting up beans in jars, and all the while she hums to Shiloh like he's a baby in a cradle, not a dog in a box. Daryl Lynn's got an old hairbrush, and she just can't seem to brush that dog enough. Even Dad sits down one evening and gets out every tick Shiloh's got on him. Takes a dab of turpentine and rubs it on the tick's rear end, and the tick backs out of Shiloh's skin mighty quick. The thing that makes it seem like Shiloh's not there is that nobody except me and Daryl, Lynn, and Becky talks about him. Ma and Dad don't even once mention his name out loud, as though saying it makes him ours, which he ain't. As though if you don't talk about him, maybe he'll disappear as quietly as he come that day in the rain. What everyone's waiting for, I guess, is something to happen. Every day, Shiloh's getting a little stronger. 2 days after Doc Murphy brought him here, Shiloh's up limping around on his bad leg. Ma put some papers beside his box for him to do his business on, but he won't. So for the next couple days, I pick him up, carry him out to the yard, and after he's done his business there, I bring him in again. But now he's pushing open the back screen himself and going down into the yard, then coming back and tapping on the screen with one paw, so we'll let him in. Somebody sometime is bound to see him. Becky sometime bound to say something. Even David Howard, when his ma came to pick him up the other day, opens his mouth right off and says something about Shiloh. Shiloh hears it too, and I know right away it's what I think it is, because Shiloh sticks his tail between his legs, puts his belly low to the floor, and climbs back into his box. Ma and Dad look at Shiloh, they look at each other. Then there's a slam of a truck door outside, footsteps on the ground, footsteps on the porch, and a rap, rap, rap at the back door. Everybody stops eating, like we was all froze to death in our chairs. Dad gets up and turns on the porch light, and there he is, Judge Travers, looking as mean and nasty as I've ever seen him look. He don't even ask can he come in, just opens the screen and steps inside. "Ray Preston," he says, "somebody told me you got my dog." Dad's looking serious. He nods and points toward the box by the stove. "Over there, Judd, but he's hurt, and we've been taking care of him for you." Judd stares at Shiloh and then at Dad. "Well, I'll be danged," he says almost softly. "Somebody knows my dog is missing, takes him in, and don't even have the decency to tell me?" "We were going to tell you," Dad says, and he's looking straight at Judd. Nobody wants to hear his dog's been hurt, though, and we wanted to make sure he was going to pull through. Then he turns to me. "Marty," he says, "you want to tell Mr. Travers how his dog come to be here?" He knows I don't. He knows I'd rather swim a river full of crocodiles than face Judge Travers. But it's my story to tell, not Dad's, and he always did make us face up to what we'd done. "Your dog come over here twice because you've been mistreating it," I say, and my voice don't sound near as strong as Dad's, sort of quavery. I clear my throat and go on. "So, second time it come over, I built it a pen up in the woods, and Dad didn't know it, and that German Shepherd of Baker's got in and fought Shiloh. When I open him up again, Judd's putting his hand on Shiloh's head, rough-like, sort of patting him. And you can tell he ain't got much practice being kind. Still, hard to prove Shiloh was mistreated before he got to Judd's. How do you go about proving something like that? "It was wrong of Marty to pen up your dog, Judd, and we've already talked about that," Dad said. "He's the one who's going to pay Doc Murphy for patching him up, and as soon as the dog is strong, we'll drive him over to your place. Why don't you let us keep him until then, in case he needs more care?" Judd stands up again and looks at me. I stare back, but I don't say nothing. And then Ma can't take it anymore. She says, "Judd, Marty's got awful attached to that dog, and we'd like to know how much you want for it. Maybe you can scrape up the money to buy him?" Judd looks at her like she's talking some kind of nonsense, like we are all getting crazier by the minute. "That dog's not for sale," he says. "Paid good money to get me a hunting dog, and he could be the one of the best I've had. You want to keep him and feed him till he's better? Okay with me. It's you that got him all tore up and you paying the bill. But I want him back by Sunday." Screen door slams again, truck starts up, and then he's gone.